Welcome to Mishna study Masachet Shabbat Perek Bet Mishnah Aleph. This Perek is going to be what's famously known as Bameh Bandikin. We read it every Friday night, and it speaks mostly, or at least in the beginning, speaks about what are you allowed to use to light Shabbat candles when it comes to wicks, when it comes to the oils. What are you not allowed to use? And that's going to be the discussion mostly about Perek. So Bameh Bandikin Ubameh En Bandikin. Right? I read Ubameh, that's how we pronounce it. That's how it's written in the Kol Yaakov. Apia Diktuk, it should probably be Ubama in Mandikin because it follows an Aleph. So what do you light with and what are you not allowed to light with? What kind of wicks are you allowed to use and what are you not allowed to use? So first we're going to speak about the wicks. The next half of the Mishnah will speak about the oils. So first we open up, Lo Belechesh, right? We're not allowed to go ahead and use Lechesh. What Harambam translates as Lechesh, he says it's a cedar fiber. It's from the Ediz tree. So you take cedar fibers and you really you spin that. You turn it into a wick. You're not allowed to use that. We'll mention in a moment why not. But a little bit hosen, right? Hosen Harambam explains as these uncombed flax. Velo bechalach, it's a raw silk. Velo biftilat ta'idan, it's a type of grass that also that grows, and then we use it and turn it into wick. Lo biftilat midbar, similarly something wild weed that grows in the desert. Velo birokash al pinamayim, right? Not the green, the moss that grows on the top of the water. A lot of times you see this like growing on steady objects in the water, and like the bottom of a boat, you'll see this little moss. You can't go ahead and turn that into a wick. Now, why not? What's wrong with these wicks? Because the flame isn't going to really catch so well, right? It's not going to light well, right? The language of the Gemara is the esh is mesachsechet bo, right? So you're not allowed to use all those as wicks. Now the Mishnah continues and it moves on to the oils. Lo bezefet, right? You're not allowed to go ahead and use pitch. Lo b'sha'ava, you can't use wax, right? So if it's beeswax, this makes sense. If it's regular wax, everyone really Gemara Tosafot really speaks about they use wax, about our candles that we use today, right? So they speak about that. And over here, it seems to be like talking more about liquid wax that you're not allowed to use. Exactly how that works, I'm not so sure, right? But the Mishnah says lo b'shava, you can't use wax as your oil. Lo b'shemen kik, right? Some people translate this as cottonseed oil. Harambam calls it castor seed oil. Not burnt oil. What's burnt oil? We know this from Masachet Terumot. It's talking about teruma teme'ah, right? Oil of teruma teme'ah that needs to be burnt. You're not allowed to use this. We'll mention why in a second. Right? You can't use the aliyah. That's the fat from the tail of the animal. Nor the other fats of the animal. Now, why? Why can't you use all these? Because again, over here, Rambam says that when it comes to these oils, right? These oils don't really draw so well into the wick, right? We know the oil is usually soaked into the wick. These don't get soaked so well into the wick, and therefore the flame over here, Rambam says in the Pirusha Mishnah, doesn't really. It's very light, and people are just going to leave the room, right? And this is not allowed because we know that halakat nirot on Shabbat is a mitzvah. And we don't want you to leave the room and just abandon the room because it's such a light flame. That's what Rambam says over here in the Pirush Mishnah. In the Chibur, in the Mishneh Torah, he was chozer bo, and he gives a different reason. And that is that he worries that if it's not caught well, right, because if it doesn't take well to the wick, right, if these oils don't take well, then what's going to happen? A person's going to see that it's flickering, so he's going to go ahead and tilt the candle a little. And if he tilts the candle, he's lighting on Shabbat. Right, so it's a gezerah that you may come to be mateh, right? You may tilt the candle when it's lit. That's how he says in the Mishneh Torah in Halacha. Okay, what about the shemen tzedafah? What about this terumat teme'ah? Why aren't we allowed to use it? So this is talking about a case where Shabbat falls out right after Yom Tov. So Yom Tov, the holiday is on Friday, and Shabbat's on Shabbat, right? And you come to light Shabbat candles, and you're lighting it on Friday, late Friday afternoon, right, on Yom Tov, and you're lighting this terumat teme'ah. What's the problem? We're not allowed to burn terumat teme'ah on Yom Tov, right? We're only allowed to use, terumat teme'ah. You're allowed to use it for eating. You can't use it to burn it on Yom Tov, right? On Yom Tov, you're not allowed to do that. You only have to do something that's for ochel nefesh, only something that's for eating, right? But when it comes to burning things, the pasuk says, right? And when we learn from here, you have to leave it till the second morning. You can't burn it on Yom Tov, right? Because Hashem, you can't burn on Yom Tov. You have to leave it till after Yom Tov, till after the holiday is over, and then you're allowed to burn it. So over here, you can't burn terumat teme'ah, right? Because you can't burn terumah on Yom Tov. And the Mishnah continues, if it comes to chalev that's already cooked, it's melted, right? Melted well, then a chomamodi allows you to use it. Some say no, it doesn't matter whether it's it's melted, cooked, melted or not. Either way, you're not allowed to use it. Right? It seems to be very similar to Tanakama. The Gemara tries to distinguish between them, but it's not exactly sure of who says what. That's how we end off. Halakha is like Chachamim. Now, I would just point out that Tosefta speaks about, just points out parenthetically that all these oils that we mentioned, right, and the wicks, the oils that we see not allowed to use them over here. We're not allowed to use them for candles on Shabbat. You use a candle, but if you want to turn these into a bonfire, right, and you want to heat yourself up next to them, that you're allowed to use, right? The only issue is really talking about using this for a candle, because the candle, again, you would have more of an issue of tilting it. When it comes to a bonfire, you're not going to have that issue.